Imagine a place where an entire town's groceries are delivered by small airplanes because there isn't a single road connecting them to the rest of the country. Where children walk to school through pitch-black darkness at 9 in the morning, and where the temperature drops so low that throwing a cup of boiling water into the air turns it instantly into ice. Reaching a hospital can mean a terrifying flight across hundreds of miles of frozen, unforgiving wilderness. A gallon of milk can cost $12, a single head of lettuce, $5. But this is not an expedition to the end of the earth. This is everyday life for over 700,000 Americans. From the bustling, surprisingly modern streets of Anchorage to tiny indigenous fishing villages perched on the edge of the Arctic Ocean, this is a land shaped entirely by extremes. This is the reality of living in Alaska. And to survive here, you must learn to live by a completely different set of rules. Alaska is a place that defies comprehension until you stand within it. It is not merely a state, it is a subcontinent. Covering more than 663,000 square miles, it is more than twice the size of Texas. If you were to overlay a map of Alaska onto the lower 48 states, it would stretch from coast to coast. Its coastline is longer than all other US states combined. Yet, across this incomprehensible expanse of mountains, forests, glaciers, and tundra, fewer people live than in the city of Columbus, Ohio. To the casual observer, Alaska is defined by its postcards. It is the land of grizzly bears snatching salmon from rushing waterfalls, of massive glaciers carving with thunderous roars into icy fjords, of pristine snow-capped peaks that pierce the sky. But to truly understand Alaska, you must look past the scenery and look at the people who have chosen to call this beautiful, brutal landscape their home. They are not a monolith of rugged, bearded frontiersmen living in isolated log cabins, though those certainly exist. The true Alaskan demographic is a complex tapestry woven from threads of ancient indigenous heritage and modern ambition. They are the Inupiat hunters on the northern coast of the Arctic Ocean, whose ancestors mapped the stars, the currents, and the shifting sea ice millennia before European explorers arrived. They are the Filipino healthcare professionals who form the absolute backbone of Anchorage's medical community, bringing warm hospitality and rich culture to the freezing north. They are commercial fishermen in Kodiak, their faces weathered by the salt spray, their hands scarred by heavy lines and hooks, their entire livelihoods governed by the unpredictable moods of the sea. They are oil field engineers on the North Slope, living in a surreal, high-tech world of industrial infrastructure set against an endless backdrop of white Arctic tundra. They are young teachers from places like Florida and Ohio, arriving in remote Yupik villages on 2-year contracts, only to find their worldviews completely transformed by the experience. They are government employees in Juneau, a state capital uniquely inaccessible by road, where political decisions are made in the shadow of a massive glacier. They are military families stationed at sprawling joint bases, bringing a slice of mainstream American suburban life with them. They are artists, bush pilots, scientists, and entrepreneurs, all drawn to the very edge of the map for reasons as varied as the landscape itself. What unites this incredibly diverse population is a shared, unspoken understanding that life here operates on a different set of principles. There is an unwritten code in Alaska, a social contract forged in the crucible of extreme weather and profound isolation. It blends a fierce, almost stubborn individualism with an absolute, undeniable dependence on community. In Alaska, you are expected to be competent. You are expected to know how to change your own tire on the side of a lonely highway at 30 degrees below zero. You are expected to know how to operate a chainsaw, how to dress for profound cold, and how to read the sky. But equally, you are expected to stop and help a stranger stranded on the side of the road without question or hesitation. You stop because the cold is lethal, and you stop because next time, that stranded driver could be you. This duality is the very bedrock of the Alaskan identity. It fosters a culture where practical competence is quietly respected and complaining is deeply frowned upon. People here learn to be resourceful. They learn to fix broken machinery with ingenuity, duct tape, and whatever materials happen to be at hand. They learn to plan their lives seasons in advance because the alternative is not merely inconvenience, it is genuine, life-threatening hardship. This environment cultivates a quiet confidence, but also a deep-seated humility. You can be the master of your own boat, the king of your own homestead, or the CEO of your own company, but you are always subject to the immense, unpredictable power of the weather and the wilderness. This shared reality forges human bonds that are often stronger, faster, and more immediate than those found in more forgiving, comfortable climates. It is a life that demands more from a person physically and mentally, but in return, it offers a profound sense of capability and belonging that many find impossible to replicate anywhere else on Earth. Chapter 1: The Tyranny and Beauty of Distance. The sheer scale of Alaska is a concept that is difficult to grasp until it directly impacts your daily life. The reality of this immense distance is woven into the fabric of every single day. It dictates the flow of commerce, the delivery of basic services, and the very nature of human connection. For the vast majority of Alaskan communities, the road system is little more than a distant rumor. The highway network is a thin ribbon of asphalt that serves only a tiny fraction of the state's total landmass. You can drive from Anchorage to Fairbanks or down into the Kenai Peninsula, but if you look at a map of the state, the roads represent a tiny cluster of veins in an otherwise empty body. For everyone living outside that small connected zone, the primary infrastructure is not asphalt. It is air and it is water. The bush plane is the undisputed workhorse of the Alaskan state. These small, durable aircraft, flown by pilots who possess an encyclopedic, almost instinctual knowledge of the terrain and weather, are the equivalent of the delivery truck, the school bus, the taxi, and the ambulance all rolled into one. They fly what is known as the milk run, hopping from one tiny, isolated village to the next. They drop off groceries, mail, Amazon packages, medical supplies, and passengers. The airstrip in these communities, often just a short gravel bar beside a river or a cleared patch of frozen tundra, is the true center of town. It is a social hub where people gather to greet arrivals, pick up precious cargo, and catch up on news from the next village over. In rural Alaska, a simple phrase like "going to town" does not mean hopping in a car for a 10-minute drive. It can mean chartering a flight that costs hundreds of dollars just to attend a routine dentist appointment or to buy fresh produce from a larger grocery store. Because of this reliance on aviation, people in Alaska learn to think about travel not in terms of miles, but in terms of weather windows. A planned journey can be delayed for days by sudden fog, high winds, or freezing rain. This creates a common Alaskan reality known simply as being weathered in. You pack your bags, you go to the airstrip, and you wait. If the pilot says it is not safe to fly, you go back home and try again tomorrow. This experience teaches a unique form of patience, a Zen-like acceptance of the fact that nature, not your personal schedule, is ultimately in control. This profound isolation fundamentally changes one's relationship with the material world. Getting a new refrigerator, a couch, or building materials to a remote village is a massive logistical undertaking. It usually involves a journey by slow-moving barge during the brief summer months when the rivers and coastlines are free of ice, or a prohibitively costly air freight shipment. If a part breaks on a generator in November, you cannot simply order a replacement for next-day delivery. You might wait weeks. The Alaska Marine Highway, a network of state-run ferries, serves as a vital, albeit slow, link for coastal communities in the southeast Panhandle and along the Gulf of Alaska. For towns like Juneau, Sitka, and Ketchikan, these vessels are the only way to move vehicles and heavy goods. But these ferries are more than just transportation. They are floating communities. During multi-day voyages through the dramatic, glacier-carved landscapes of the Inside Passage, travelers share meals in the cafeteria, play cards in the lounges, and sleep in tents pitched on the open upper decks, watching for breaching humpback whales. Living with this logistical reality requires a level of foresight and long-term planning that has become rare in the modern, instant gratification world of the lower 48 states. It teaches you that you are not at the center of the universe, but rather a very small part of a vast, powerful system that operates entirely on its own time. It is a humbling and centering lesson in a world that often forgets it. The rhythm of a day in Alaska is a story told by the sun. It is a pendulum swinging wildly between extremes of light and darkness. In the heart of winter, in the interior regions near Fairbanks, the day might consist of only 3 or 4 hours of weak, slanted twilight. The sun, when it appears at all, is a pale orb that barely skims the southern horizon before vanishing again. The morning commute to work begins in profound darkness, and the evening commute ends in the same blackness. The sound of the deep cold is a physical presence. It is a deep, resonant silence broken only by the sharp squeak and crunch of dry snow underfoot and the occasional sharp crackle of ice-laden trees snapping in the freezing air. During these dark months, life draws inward. The home, with its warm lights and glowing wood stove, becomes a vital sanctuary. The pace of life slows, becoming more deliberate, more introspective. It is a time for community. Potlucks, card games, and school basketball tournaments bring entire villages together under the bright fluorescent lights of the local gym. It is a time for storytelling, for passing long evenings with family, and for the quiet, essential work of mending fishing nets, sharpening tools, and preparing gear for the seasons to come. Then comes the dramatic, almost violent return of the light. As spring transitions into summer, the days stretch with astonishing speed, gaining several minutes of new sunlight each day. Soon, the sun is a constant, unyielding companion, circling the sky for 20 or even 24 hours a day in the far north. The very concept of night becomes a distant memory, replaced by a perpetual, golden twilight that never fully fades to black. The energy across the state during this time is palpable. It is a frantic, joyous race to fit an entire year's worth of outdoor life into 3 short, precious months. It is a time of sensory overload. The sweet, heady smell of cottonwood blossoms fills the air. The incessant, high-pitched drone of millions of mosquitoes provides a constant background noise. And there is a relentless hum of human activity. Commercial fishermen work around the clock, their bodies attuned to the running tides and the salmon migrations rather than the time on a clock. Construction crews labor late into the night, pouring concrete and framing houses illuminated by a sun that refuses to set. Gardens explode with growth in the fertile, glacial soil, fueled by the endless daylight to produce record-breaking vegetables, including cabbages the size of beach balls. It is a season of profound abundance and relentless, exhausting work, fueled by the collective, instinctual knowledge that winter, with its encroaching darkness and deep cold, is never far away. This annual cycle of extreme light and dark is not just a feature of the Alaskan environment. It is the metronome that sets the pace for all of life, shaping everything from human sleep patterns to the collective psychology of the people who live there. Chapter 2: Urban Comforts and Wild Neighbors. The popular cinematic image of Alaska is one of windswept, empty tundra, isolated log cabins, and people living off the grid. While this exists, the reality for nearly half of the state's residents is far more conventional and in many ways much more complex. Anchorage is a sprawling, modern American city home to roughly 300,000 people. It possesses a diverse economy, a major university, multiple state-of-the-art hospitals, and a vibrant, surprisingly diverse food scene. It has all the familiar markers of urban American life. There is rush-hour traffic on the Glen Highway. There are sprawling suburban neighborhoods with manicured lawns and two-car garages. There are big-box stores like Costco and Target where families push oversized carts to stock up on weekly supplies. For many residents, the daily Monday to Friday routine is not significantly different from that of someone living in Denver, Colorado, or Seattle, Washington. They work in climate-controlled office buildings, attend parent-teacher conferences, and take their kids to soccer practice on turf fields. The city boasts a world-class museum celebrating indigenous history and northern art. It has a performing arts center that hosts touring Broadway shows and symphony orchestras. It is home to Lake Hood, the world's busiest seaplane base, where the constant, buzzing roar of float planes taking off and landing forms the quintessential soundtrack of an Anchorage summer. Yet, despite all these urban comforts, the wilderness is an undeniable, ever-present neighbor. It is a powerful force that continuously shapes the city's character and reminds its residents exactly where they are. Anchorage is framed on the east by the stunning Chugach Mountains, a jagged, imposing wall of rock, alpine tundra, and glacial ice that serves as a constant, dramatic backdrop to the city skyline. It is a place where the urban and the wild intersect in ways that can be both beautiful and startlingly dangerous. A peaceful morning jog on the city's extensive paved trail system might be suddenly interrupted by a massive 1,000-pound moose and her calf calmly munching on willow leaves just feet from the path. A black bear wandering through a densely populated residential neighborhood in search of unsecured garbage is a common occurrence, prompting casual alerts on community social media pages. Residents know to make noise when walking in the woods, and many carry bear spray just as casually as they carry their house keys. The culture of Anchorage is deeply influenced by this immediate proximity to the wild. It is a major hub for weekend warriors, people who work standard corporate jobs in finance, law, or healthcare from Monday to Friday, and then on Friday afternoon load up their four-wheel drive trucks with skis, kayaks, mountain bikes, or heavy fishing gear. They disappear into the mountains or onto the pristine waters of Prince William Sound, returning on Sunday night exhausted, exhilarated, and ready for the work week. Anchorage offers a unique proposition that few other cities in the world can match. The ability to participate fully in a modern, connected global economy, to enjoy high-speed internet and excellent coffee, all while having one of the world's greatest, most intact wilderness areas as your personal, immediate backyard. It is this constant, dynamic blend of the ordinary suburban and the extraordinary wild that defines the Anchorage experience. But to venture beyond the thin ribbon of highways that connects Anchorage, Fairbanks, and the Kenai Peninsula is to enter a different Alaska entirely. This is a world that operates on its own uncompromising terms. This is the vast domain known simply by locals as off-the-road system. This term encompasses hundreds of distinct communities, from tiny, rain-swept fishing villages in the southeast panhandle to indigenous subsistence communities perched on the muddy banks of the mighty Yukon River to settlements clinging to the frozen coast of the Bering Sea. Life here is a masterclass in logistics, extreme patience, and constant adaptation. In coastal and river villages, the arrival of the annual fuel barge during the brief summer ice-free window is the most important economic event of the entire year. It is a massive, highly coordinated effort to offload enough heating oil and gasoline into the village's bulk tanks to last the entire community through the long, dark, freezing winter. Missing that delivery due to bad weather or logistical failure is simply not an option. It would mean a community freezing in the dark. The village store in these off-grid communities is the beating heart of the town. It is a combination of post office, social club, gossip hub, and grocery. Walking down the aisles of these small stores provides a stark and immediate lesson in extreme economics. The prices on the shelves reflect a long, complicated, and incredibly expensive supply chain involving ships, planes, and sheer human effort. Seeing a gallon of milk priced at $12, a single wilted head of lettuce for $5, or a standard box of cereal for $8 is not a shock to the locals. It is the accepted norm. This harsh economic reality makes subsistence hunting and fishing not a recreational hobby or a weekend sport. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable necessity for both economic survival and basic nutritional health. Without the moose, caribou, salmon, and berries harvested from the surrounding land, families simply could not afford to eat. Modern technology has reached these remote areas, but it comes with caveats. Internet access, while increasingly available via satellite connections, can be painfully slow, deeply unreliable during bad weather, and prohibitively expensive. This creates a digital divide that impacts everything from a child's ability to complete online education assignments to a patient's ability to consult with a doctor in Anchorage via a telehealth appointment. When a water pipe freezes and bursts in the dead of winter, or when a crucial diesel generator fails, there is no calling a 24-hour emergency repair service. There is no one coming to save you. You rely entirely on your own skills, the specific tools you happen to have in your shed, and the collective, accumulated knowledge of your neighbors. In these towns, the local school is often the largest, warmest, and most modern building available. It serves not just as a place of learning for children, but as the community center, the emergency shelter, the gymnasium, and the gathering place for public meetings and feasts. This life-off-the-road system is not for everyone. It quickly filters out those who cannot adapt. It requires a high tolerance for inconvenience, a deep well of internal patience, and a genuine, abiding love for a quieter, more deliberate way of living. It is a life stripped down to its barest essentials. The rewards here are found not in material abundance, shopping malls, or convenience, but in the fierce strength of human connection and the profound, daily, undeniable relationship with the surrounding land, ice, and sea. Chapter 3: Ancient Cultures and Harvests of the SEA. The story of Alaska did not begin with Russian fur traders or American gold miners. It began tens of thousands of years ago, and that ancient story continues vibrantly today in the modern cultures of its indigenous peoples. They are the Inupiat of the far north, the Yupik of the western deltas, the Unangax Aleut of the southwestern island chain, the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian of the southeastern rainforests, and the Athabascan peoples of the vast interior. Their story is one of incredible resilience, brilliant innovation, and deep adaptation to an environment that offers no second chances. Alaskan Native communities today are not living museums, frozen in some romanticized past. They are highly dynamic places where ancient, hard-won knowledge and cutting-edge modern technology are woven together in a uniquely Alaskan fabric. A whaling captain in the northernmost town of Utqiagvik might still use traditional, hand-sewn sealskin boats, called umiaks, to navigate the shifting leads in the spring sea ice. He might still use a hand-thrown harpoon, observing rituals that honor the spirit of the bowhead whale. But he also uses advanced satellite imagery downloaded to his smartphone, GPS navigation, and VHF radios to track ice movements, communicate with other crews, and ensure safety. A young artist in the coastal town of Sitka might carve a traditional Tlingit totem pole or formline mask using adzes and techniques passed down through centuries of master carvers. Yet, she simultaneously manages a sophisticated Instagram presence and a global e-commerce website to sell her intricate silver engravings to collectors in New York, London, and Tokyo. In these communities, the role of the elders is paramount. They are not merely older citizens, they are living libraries. They are the cherished, respected keepers of traditional knowledge. They know the precise timing of the salmon runs, the medicinal properties of tundra plants, the subtle changes in weather patterns that indicate a coming storm, and the complex oral histories that contain the wisdom, laws, and lineage of generations. This knowledge is not considered static folklore. It is viewed as a highly practical, living guide to survival and the absolute cornerstone of cultural identity. At the same time, indigenous Alaskans operate within a unique modern economic framework. The landmark Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971 established regional and village native corporations. Today, these corporations are powerful economic and political forces within the state and beyond. They manage vast, resource-rich land holdings and operate highly successful businesses in industries ranging from heavy construction and oil field services to government contracting, technology, and tourism. The profits from these corporate ventures provide jobs, educational scholarships, cultural funding, and vital social services to their indigenous shareholders. Young indigenous people today navigate a highly complex world. They are balancing the heavy pressures of Western education, social media, and the digital age with the deep-seated values and obligations of their traditional culture. They are attending language immersion camps to revitalize ancestral tongues that were nearly erased by historical assimilation policies. They participate in traditional dance groups that perform at massive gatherings like the World Eskimo Indian Olympics or the Celebration Festival in Juneau. Through it all, they are ensuring that the sacred, reciprocal connection to the land, the animals, and the community remains the unbreakable anchor for their future. It is a profound testament to the enduring strength of cultures that have not merely survived, but thrived in one of the world's most challenging environments for millennia. Beyond the indigenous villages, in hundreds of coastal towns scattered along Alaska's rugged, glacier-carved shoreline, life rises and falls with the tide. Here, the calendar is marked not by months, but by fishing seasons. From the frantic, crowded salmon derbies of the Kenai Peninsula to the rich halibut grounds of the Gulf of Alaska to the legendary, perilous winter crab fisheries of the Bering Sea, the ocean is the absolute dominant force. It rules the economy, shapes the culture, and defines the very soul of these communities. The life of an Alaskan commercial fisherman is one of dramatic, exhausting extremes. It is a life of grueling, relentless, bone-aching physical labor. It involves long periods of isolation away from family, living in cramped, damp quarters. It requires a constant, sober awareness that they are working in what is statistically one of the world's most dangerous professions, where a sudden storm, rogue wave, or equipment failure can be instantly fatal. But it is also a life of profound independence, exhilarating moments of massive catches, and a deep, intimate connection to the raw power of the marine world. The culture of towns like Cordova, Homer, or Naknek is built entirely around the fishery. In the peak of summer, a quiet coastal town can see its population double or triple almost overnight. Seasonal workers, deckhands, and processing plant laborers arrive from across the lower 48 states and from around the globe. This creates a unique, highly transient, and multicultural atmosphere filled with the smell of diesel, salt water, and processing fish. The local economy of these towns is entirely, precariously dependent on the health of the fish stocks and the wildly fluctuating, often merciless prices of the global seafood market. A good season means new pickup trucks in the driveways, fresh paint on the houses, and much-needed improvements to the local school. A bad season, caused by a poor salmon return or a sudden drop in global prices, means a pervasive, heavy financial anxiety that ripples instantly through every single household, grocery store, and marine supply business in town. This shared, absolute dependence on the sea creates a powerful, if sometimes tense, sense of community. There is fierce, secretive competition on the water to find the best fishing spots and maximize the catch. But underlying this competition is an unwritten, ironclad code of mutual support. Fishermen share crucial information about dangerous weather fronts. They assist each other with mid-ocean mechanical repairs. And they are always, without fail, the very first to respond to a mayday call for search and rescue efforts, knowing deeply that the unforgiving ocean is the great equalizer, and tomorrow it could be their own boat taking on water. It is a proud, fiercely independent, and deeply challenging way of life that has sustained families and coastal communities for generations. It is a legacy of hard work, written entirely on the face of the water. Chapter 4, The Economics of Extremes and the Long Dark. Alaska is frequently perceived by outsiders as a land of high wages and opportunity, a place where a person willing to work hard can earn a very good living. For many residents, particularly those in specialized fields like oil and gas extraction, commercial aviation, engineering, and healthcare, this is entirely true. The paychecks can be substantial. However, what outsiders rarely understand is that a high income in Alaska is almost always offset by an equally staggering cost of living. This financial pressure is a constant, unavoidable reality for every single resident, from the cities to the most remote villages. The primary, inescapable driver of this high cost is transportation. Geographically, Alaska is an island. Nearly every single commodity required for modern life, from lumber, concrete, and vehicles to fresh produce, toilet paper, and winter clothing, must be shipped thousands of miles. It arrives either by slow-moving ocean barges from ports in Washington state or by highly expensive air freight. This logistical reality is brutally reflected in the price tag of absolutely everything. A gallon of gasoline in rural Alaska can easily cost double or triple the national average, heavily impacting the cost of running cars, boats, and the four-wheelers essential for daily life. Electricity costs are astronomical, especially in remote communities that rely entirely on local diesel generators for power. The simple, daily act of keeping the lights on and the house warm during a dark, sub-zero winter is a major, sometimes crippling monthly expense. Groceries provide a particularly stark and daily reminder of this economic isolation. While residents in Anchorage and Fairbanks have access to large chain stores with relatively competitive prices, the situation changes drastically off the road system. In remote communities, the steep cost of air freight is literally added to the price of every single item on the shelf. Families must routinely budget for $12 gallons of milk, $8 bags of potato chips, and exorbitant prices for fresh fruits and vegetables, which are often bruised or wilted by the time they arrive. This relentless economic pressure forces Alaskan families to be incredibly resourceful, strategic, and self-reliant. It is why many households rely heavily on large chest freezers, often owning 2 or 3 per family. Throughout the short summer and autumn, they work tirelessly to stock these freezers with wild salmon, halibut, moose, caribou, and foraged berries. This is not just a cultural tradition. It is a financial necessity to offset the cost of store-bought food. Buying dry goods, canned food, and household supplies in massive bulk quantities during the summer is standard, essential practice. The Permanent Fund Dividend, known universally as the PFD, is a crucial and entirely unique part of the Alaskan household economy. It is an annual cash payment distributed to every qualified resident, derived from the investment earnings of the state's sovereign wealth fund, which was established using oil revenues. For outside observers, it often sounds like free money. But for many Alaskan families, particularly in rural areas, the PFD is not a bonus for luxury spending. It is an essential, calculated lifeline. It is carefully earmarked months in advance for major survival expenses, purchasing the entire winter's supply of heating fuel, making a down payment on a reliable snow machine for winter transportation, or buying commercial airline tickets to see family or access medical specialists in the lower 48 states. Managing a household budget in Alaska requires a level of foresight, discipline, and harsh prioritization that is a survival skill in itself. It is a constant, stressful balancing act between the lure of high wages and the punishing price of simply existing in a remote, beautiful, and unforgiving place. Winter in Alaska is not a passive season. It is not something to be merely endured while waiting for spring. Winter is an active, powerful, dominating force that dictates the terms of daily existence. It is an immersive, total sensory experience that fundamentally reshapes one's perception of the world. It is the profound, almost absolute silence of a vast landscape muffled by a thick, heavy blanket of fresh snow where all ambient noise is absorbed. It is the sharp, clean, metallic sting of sub-zero air in your lungs, a cold so intense and heavy that it feels like a solid physical object pressing against your skin. It is the otherworldly, ethereal glow of the aurora borealis, the northern lights dancing silently in waves of green, purple, and red across a pitch-black, star-filled sky. It is a celestial spectacle that, no matter how many times an Alaskan sees it, never loses its power to inspire awe. But the darkness is a heavy, physical presence. It influences human moods, alters sleep patterns, and restricts daily routines. The lack of sunlight is a biological challenge. Many Alaskans struggle with seasonal affective disorder, a form of depression triggered by the lack of light. They combat this darkness with a determined arsenal of tools. Homes and offices glow with full-spectrum light therapy boxes. Residents take high daily doses of vitamin D supplements. And, perhaps most importantly, they make a conscious, highly determined effort to stay physically active and socially connected, knowing that isolation during the dark months is the greatest enemy of mental health. Life adapts to the deep cold in countless, ingenious ways. Vehicles are modified for survival. Cars and trucks are equipped with engine block heaters, oil pan heaters, and sometimes even battery blankets. When parking at home or at work, these vehicles must be plugged into specialized electrical outlets to keep the engine fluids warm. Otherwise, the engine block will freeze solid and the car will not start in the brutal morning cold. Alaskans become connoisseurs of technical clothing. They understand the critical, life-saving importance of layering, the danger of cotton, the necessity of moisture-wicking fabrics, and the exact difference between various types of down and synthetic insulation. Driving a vehicle becomes an art form, requiring a delicate touch on the brakes, a healthy, respectful dose of caution, and an intimate, practiced knowledge of how a heavy truck behaves on sheer, polished ice. Yet, winter is also a time of great, crystalline beauty and surprisingly vibrant community life. It is the season of dog sledding, the state's official sport. The only sounds are the quiet hiss of runners gliding on packed snow and the joyful, rhythmic panting of a highly trained team of huskies doing what they were bred to do. It is the season of ice fishing, which involves drilling a hole through 3 feet of solid ice, dropping a line into the black water, and waiting in a state of quiet, freezing contemplation. It is the season of cross-country skiing through silent forests illuminated only by the light of a full moon reflecting off the snow. It is the time when communities come alive with uniquely northern winter festivals. Events like the Fur Rendezvous in Anchorage bring people out into the cold for quirky events, intricate snow sculpture competitions, massive community bonfires, and outdoor sports tournaments. Alaskans don't just survive the winter by hiding indoors. They have actively created a rich, resilient, and vibrant culture that embraces it. It is a season that ruthlessly tests your physical and mental resilience, but rewards you with a unique sense of accomplishment, a quiet camaraderie with your neighbors, and a deep, soul-felt appreciation for the eventual, glorious return of the sun. After witnessing the incredible logistical challenges, the relentless, biting cold, the persistent, heavy darkness, the staggering expense of basic goods, and the profound, sometimes crushing isolation, the question inevitably arises for anyone looking at Alaska from the outside. Why do people choose to stay? Why build a life in a place that demands so much effort just to exist? The answer is as complex, varied, and layered as the people themselves. But it is rarely about logic, and it is never about convenience. It is about a feeling. It is a deep, abiding, almost magnetic connection to a place that is difficult to articulate in words, but impossible for those who feel it to ignore. It is the profound feeling of belonging to a true community, a place where people genuinely, actively look out for one another. A place where your neighbor will pull your truck out of a snowy ditch in the dead of night, in freezing temperatures, without a second thought and without asking for anything in return. It is the quiet, internal satisfaction that comes from living a life of genuine competence and self-reliance. It comes from knowing how to read the shifting weather, how to harvest your own food from the ocean or the forest, how to keep your family warm when the power fails, how to thrive in an environment that demands your constant, undivided respect. It is about raising children in a place where the primary playground is a vast, wild, unbroken landscape. A place where they learn about the natural world not from a television screen or a textbook, but from direct, unmediated, muddy, freezing, thrilling experience. It is the unparalleled, intoxicating freedom of having millions of acres of pristine public land as your literal backyard. The freedom of being able to walk, ski, or paddle for days in any direction without seeing another human soul, a road, or a fence. For many, it is a deeply spiritual connection to the land itself, a sense of profound peace that comes only from the immense, heavy silence and the raw, unfiltered, uncompromising beauty of the true wilderness. It is the simple, profound thrill of seeing a massive moose resting in your front yard, of pulling a bright silver salmon from a rushing river to feed your family, or of watching a towering blue glacier carve into the sea with a roar that shakes the earth beneath your feet. Life in Alaska strips away the non-essential noise of the modern world. It forces you, sometimes brutally, to focus entirely on what truly matters: family, community, your direct relationship with the natural world, and your own inner strength and resilience. People stay in Alaska because, despite all its hardships, despite the dark and the cold and the cost, it offers a life of absolute substance, authenticity, and deep meaning. It gets into your blood. It gets into your soul. And once it does, no other place on Earth, no matter how warm, how cheap, or how convenient, ever feels quite as much like home. This has been Terra, Incognita. If this journey took you to a place where humans have chosen to build a life on the very edge of the wild, consider subscribing for new documentaries every week, where we step beyond the map to discover the unknown and explore the most remote, hidden, and untold corners of our planet.